And Kirk Davis will be our speaker tonight. He's becoming, you've becoming kind of an annual event now, Kirk.
Yeah, that's what I've been told.
Yeah. We gotta make sure we maintain that for a while. If we're desperate, we'll take Paul, but you know.
Paul lately, man, you can't, nobody's seen him. I think he's working out of a cave or something.
Well, aren't we all? I'm working up in the mountains near a waterfall, so.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah. That's weird. Okay, so if somehow, every month the same, if somehow you've missed how to find what we're doing, here's some good places to look. Mostly they all are going to end up pointing you back to the meetup site, but yeah, there you go. Oh, hey, that's a good question. Kurt, can you be recorded tonight?
Yes, I can, I think.
And published, so to speak, on the YouTube, on the Padman YouTube?
Yeah, I have like one internal email I'm going to show, but I'll take my chances. Why the heck?
Okay. Okay, then I am about to hit the record button so that I can find it. It's on a different screen. Oh, heck. Does anyone remember where the record button is? Oh, what? No, that's not right.
Don't I have to take control of this at some point, though?
Top left.
Yeah, it should be.
Are you trying to record? It says recording.
Okay,
mine says it's recording.
That's the problem. It's already recording. I don't like to record that first part because we might say naughty things. But whatever.
Yeah, all that idle chatter. Can you scrub out my comments about a former employer?
No, especially not. No,
Part about salting the earth, maybe.
It'll probably.
I don't know who said that.
I'll probably be cutting out most of that.
It wasn't Lori Hannon.
Oh, it was not.
Oh.
She never says anything.
Anybody but Lori Hannon.
So, as usual, the reason we even exist is because Microsoft started making cool tools that a lot of people bought into and continue to buy into and are buying into all over again in so many ways. And Intel, not so much the partners they used to be, and not by their own fault. Thanks to COVID, they're less of a partner now. But that's life. We got to get some Intel folk back on here and make sure they don't forget about us. So we have a lot of people who help make things possible. They would be providing the pizza if we had any, but we don't. So let's start with, well, I'll do something for Tech Systems. Danielle texted me today. She's aware that she should be here, but no one was available to do it tonight. So she just wanted to remind everyone that she's out there, and if you are looking for anything, she would love to talk to you. IT Motives, Alina, would you go ahead and go?
Hi there. It's always nice to see people. A little side note about Kirk. When I first started recruiting, 6 years ago, I took Kirk out for lunch just to get to know him, and he was so helpful in teaching me about technology and building relationships. And so I'm on here, yes, as a recruiter who wants to build relationships, but also as a Kirk Davis groupie and a cheering squad. So I'm here for Kirk. And I'm so excited to hear you talk, as always. So, but if anybody is looking, of course, you can just hit me up in the chat and maybe we can exchange information.
It's funny, I'm only here because I wanted to see you, Alina.
Well, we're all happy then.
Nice. I'm feeling the love in the room.
All right, Lori, would you go ahead and go?
I don't know if I can follow that. Hey everybody, I'm Lori Hannon. I'm a principal consultant at SoftSource Consulting, which means talking about SoftSource is actually a side gig for me. My day job is writing code for SoftSource clients, like I did at one time, along with Kirk. We are excited for this quarter and what we've got going on. We are looking for software engineers and architects. So if you speak C# or Java, Python, you're thinking about your next opportunity, my contact details are in the chat. You have to scroll up to find them, but they're there. Or if you're just looking to expand your network, my LinkedIn link is there as well. So excellent. Good to see everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Lori. We've got Catapult in the house. Steven. No, I'm sorry, not Stephen. Robert Half, Stephen. I mentally rotated all that. Sorry, go ahead, Stephen. Because
Okay. Not David of Catapult or anything, right? So.
Wait, but yeah, he's not
Wait,
here.
yeah. Hey, everybody. This is Stephen Greger with Robert Half Technology. We're always taking a look out for new talent, and we have new opportunities that are popping up every day these days. It's starting to feel like a year ago. So if you're thinking about moving out, or if you know someone who's coming to the area who might be looking for a job, hit us up, and we'll make some introductions and see what we can do to help you out.
Excellent. Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks.
Andrew, it's your turn, but where is Charlie and gang?
Chuck is probably swimming in his brother's pool in Vegas.
Then he should be on here. Okay,
He should
go ahead.
be.
Go ahead and give your own plug then.
Perfect. Hey, everybody. I'm Andrew. I work with Vanderhouen. I've been there a long time. And we've been a sponsor of PadNug for quite a while as well. So we're recruiters, and we place people permanently and on contract. And I am actually looking for a lead developer who wants to take a step up to being a software dev manager for a SaaS company with a C# and AWS stack. And if that sounds like it might tickle your fancy, or you might know somebody who would be good for that, give me a shout. Thanks, guys.
Kirk, you know those technologies, right?
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking, oh, wait a minute, C# and AWS. I feel like I might know a guy. His name's Paul Fryer. I'll get you through.
Oh, man. You'll love it when people are willing to get rid of their coworkers. Anyway.
Let me know if Amazon sucks, Kirk. Oh, never mind.
I will absolutely do that.
Andrew, you might want to check your inbox. Oh, no, I'm kidding. All right. So this Darknet Diaries was popular at the pre-portion of the meeting today. And here's a few other podcasts and stuff you might want to check out if you haven't already. Take a look. Up and coming. 1 week from today, PadNug West Side. That's at the Thirsty Lion at Washington Square. We can have 10 people. That's all we can do, but there you go. Day after that, the formerly Oregon SQL, now Oregon Data Community, they have their get-together. On the 22nd is AWS User Group. Kirk, I think you've been there once or twice, right?
Yeah, I've emceed a couple of different customers speaking there. I think I just emceed one that was virtual, like in August, when one of my coworkers was talking about did a big deep dive on Kubernetes.
Yeah.
Scott Horsfield.
Cool.
Who's the partner? Cloud Knox. Interesting.
Portland SQL Server, not to be confused with Oregon SQL. They meet on the 22nd, supposedly. I haven't been there for a while, so I'm not sure that they're actually doing the meeting, but I think everyone's doing virtual, obviously, except for the geek dinners. Now, here's the thing. As everyone might recall, we used to meet up at the Grand Central Bowling Alley for our second geek dinner of the month on the 4th Tuesday. They're obviously, bowling's still not allowed because, you know, you wouldn't want to, you might touch a ball that someone else got COVID on, so. And there's rumor that they're trying to open up the restaurant portion. So if that happens, we will try to meet over on the east side. If not, though, we'll default back to the Washington Square Thirsty Lion. And then finally, the November 3rd, we do have a scheduled PadNug meeting, and Rich needs to get a speaker for that. So I still expect the December speaker to be our usual. I will verify with him to make sure there's no issues there. Maybe we'll switch him to November if there is.
Yeah, it's a good thing there's nothing else big happening on November 3rd, so you'll have everybody focused.
As I said, Kirk, every November it's the same thing. We are used to that, and it's never, you know, we're in the state of mail-in ballots. It's not too much of a problem here.
That's true. You know what? That's a fair comment.
So everyone's already long done by the time they come to PadNug that night. So with no further ado, does anyone have announcements, excitement in their life that they want to share with the group? Alina? Are we going to see you on TV again soon? Oh, darn. Okay. Kirk, this makes it all on your shoulders now.
All right.
I
I
will-
just requested to take over, so hopefully that will work.
You will be able to take over in just a moment. I got to stop the share.
All right.
That whole stopping the share thing.
Also, I don't know if that's, I've been watching my CPU and it was pegging a little while ago. Now it stopped, but I keep getting some weird like sound effects stuff going on. So
That might be the sound effects I like to add to our meetings.
host disabled participant screen sharing. Oh,
So I will keep an eye on the chat. If anyone has questions, go ahead and type it or type that you have a question. And it so that if Kirk's presenting and doesn't have a chance to see your chat, I'll try to keep an eye on it.
hey, I tried to share screen, but it says that the host is disabled screen sharing.
You know, I think that's part of the whole. They're trying to make it safer, and
Right.
we don't want you showing naughty bits up on the screen or something.
I don't think anyone wants to see that. So
No.
let's see. One participant can share at a time.
I think.
There it goes.
Yeah. I was
Choose
gonna
the
say,
screen that you want to share.
choose the right screen.
Let's hope that works. All right. So tonight, I was going to do like a mix, like I usually do, of some presentation and then some demos that of a couple of different tools that we've launched this year related to modernization. So I call this like modernizing .NET apps on AWS. Like, what does that even mean? So we'll talk about like what I mean by that, and hopefully everybody will just like chime in or chat. Let me see if I can. Where'd the chat go? I've got so many so many windows open here. 1 second. Media controls. I can't see the chat now, can I anymore?
It is difficult for sure.
Oh no, there it is.
It's there. though.
Alina said, "Good luck." Okay, I can see the chat. I've got it undocked now somehow. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not a Zoom expert. So with that, I will first though. Before this was that internal email. I said, "Wait, should I be showing this and having it recorded later?" So AWS, Amazon Web Services, which is where I work, is a member of the .NET Foundation. So we're a supporting member. And we have an internal team that's focused on contributing to .NET Core because it's an open source. You probably guys, everybody, their baby, they gave up control over it, and it's now owned or controlled by the .NET Foundation and AWS by way of Amazon, I believe. We joined that. We're a supporter. So we have a team. Don't repeat that you've heard me call that team Blue Shift, which it shows in the email. But this went out yesterday, actually, at 4:34 p.m. For people that love WCF, and I feel sorry for you if that's true. We are trying to help. We are helping to port WCF, the server component, to .NET Core. So the WCF service client was already part of .NET Core, but yesterday was the launch of the alpha of Core WCF, which is a port of the server component of WCF, which supports, I think it says, basic HTTP binding and net TCP binding initially. So obviously this is an alpha. You don't want to hold on 1 second while I beat up my kid. 1 second. Sorry about that. So you would want to use this for production or anything, but it is launched, and so it's a pretty big deal. And I think there were a number of developers in AWS that were working on this. So, so for all those who say we don't contribute back, there in your face.
Did anyone say that? I don't think they did.
Yeah, well, there's a bit of news about that sometimes. So really quick, like, why do we even talk about modernizing Windows apps? Depending on which market research company you want to believe and what year you're looking at, somewhere between like 50%, I've seen higher numbers as of a few years ago, of existing enterprise apps that like aren't in the cloud yet. The companies still have in their data centers or their colo are running on Windows. And a lot of those companies are, a lot of those apps, these are apps that the companies built themselves, which means they're probably on .NET Framework with SQL Server as the database. They're usually monoliths. So yeah, they're often ASP.NET monoliths, monolith meaning, all the code's been compiled into a single app and it's deployed as one. You can still scale up a monolith, but it means like, launching more Windows servers and having them behind a load balancer and hopefully getting your session state out of in process. But anyway, there's a lot of these apps out there. Some of the customers I've worked with just in the last few months have 200 or 300 or more different in-house .NET apps running on a variety of hardware. A lot of this is from mergers or acquisitions and just stuff that was built over time for like their internal calendaring or their time off system, and then some other back-end processing system and dealing with vendors and so on. So they're just all over the place. So there's basically a lot of these that sort of need to be modernized or that could be modernized, I guess, is sort of why I'm talking about it. And also because, and if you get the monolith part, see the monolith, the shadow of the monolith is on Mars. It's a 2001. Rich is old enough to remember that movie. So basically, pretty much everybody and their brother is moving applications to the cloud. And but a lot of that, what we see, at least at AWS, a lot of it is what we call like lift and shift. They're just sort of taking these apps that are running on servers in their data centers, and they're moving them to servers running on data centers owned by Amazon or Microsoft or Google, or maybe even Oracle. I haven't run into that, but I know it's out there. So, that's not really modernizing them. It's just sort of getting them out of your data center so that, they're in the cloud, but you're not getting all the benefits out of sort of cloud computing really. So modernization, if you ask 5 developers what modernization is, you probably get like 6 answers, I think is kind of the old joke. In the context of moving to the cloud, we like to talk about modernization as this process of like progressively transforming your applications to make them highly available, make them more scalable, more quickly scalable, to reduce your costs, and so on. So hold on one second. My technology's killing me over here. Okay, so basically to modernize them to get more benefit out of moving them to the cloud. And you can modernize things in your own data center too. And there's a lot of reasons you might do that. But in today's topic, I'm mainly talking about going to the cloud. I
Isn't
wanted
that
to
Windows 95 there, Kirk?
Yeah, you like that? It's not really though. I found a licensed image, which is not the official one, but looks a lot like it. Because Microsoft has a pretty tight trademark on theirs. So it's not the .NET Core image. It's the .NET Framework image, right? Windows monoliths, a lot of these .NET monoliths on Windows, some of them are tightly coupled to like older versions of Windows, which are no longer getting some of these, if you're in a highly rated, some support. I mean, if you're on 2003, I don't know, you should not be on Windows Server 2003 anymore. It's only 17 years old. It's also past all support. I think 2012 is still an extended support for till next year, which means pay a lot of money, and if that they decide to come out with, you get it. So there's a lot of reasons to try to get off of at least the legacy versions of Windows. Elliot Smith has entered the waiting room. Okay, admit. .NET Framework applications in general are bound to Windows OS, assuming you're not running like ChiliSoft's Chili ASP or something crazy. No, okay, there's licensing that dealing with legacy Windows apps can be tough, but there's a lot of them. Deployments are often manual. You can automate them, but it's usually slower and more complex. So when companies decide to modernize these .NET Framework applications that are running on Windows, there's two main paths that we see them taking generally. They either put them in Windows Server containers so they can like deploy them more easily, move them to the cloud, scale them out more easily. They can also save on some licensing costs. or they port them to .NET Core, where they can then either be run in Linux containers or move to serverless platforms like Lambda or Google or Azure Functions and so on, function as a service type environments. The containers, if they're in Linux, are lighter weight, and they're license free. You can run them on Linux. You don't pay any operating system tax. So I'm going to quickly then talk about these two paths and then two tools that we have launched this year specifically for those two paths to modernize Windows apps. The first one is moving to Windows Server containers. So, the typical rationale we see for this is companies might have like 30 different ASP.NET, 4.x web apps. They're using slightly different versions of .NET Framework, and each app has been configured to be the default website in IIS. So in order, if you're running that on 30 different servers, if you can condense that down to 1 or 2 servers by running in Windows containers, you might be able to save a bunch of money. It's easier to move these containers around rather than trying to take a virtual machine and move it from on-prem to AWS and then decide we're going to pull it out, or maybe move it to Azure or wherever. Containers are a lot more portable. And a lot of companies have invested a lot of time and money into management deployment pipelines built around containers. And so Windows Server containers kind of slot in nicely there. So, for the advantages of porting to .NET, so I think that's the main reasons that we see companies moving to Windows Server containers versus, porting to .NET Core. There's a lot of advantages to porting to .NET Core. I don't think I need a slide to tell you what some of those are. You probably already know. .NET Core, soon to be .NET 5. It's the future of .NET, as Scott Hunter has publicly said and written on his blog 3 years ago, I think. It's where all the new development features are going to be. So with that said, not every app is a great candidate to go to .NET Core. If it's an app where you are actively developing the app, so you get new features that are coming in. It's not just an app that's been sitting around for 10 years on a server. No one's doing anything to it, and if it's just staying there, maybe that's not a great candidate to spend the money and time to port it to .NET Core, because it takes time and effort to do it. So if you're not going to get any kind of return out of it, it might not be worth it. If it's a legacy ASP.NET project type like web forms, and I had WCF server apps, even though just yesterday, my slide is already obsolete because we launched the alpha that I showed earlier of the WCF core WCF. But in general, those are still going to take more work. If you're in ASP.NET MVC or Web API or Razor Pages, those have a more direct path because there are ASP.NET Core project types for those that map to them. Or if you have a console app, that's usually the easiest of all because there's basically, the code over. You might have a couple little things to change, but often that's not a big deal. Some apps, if it's WPF or .NET WinForms or something, even though there is support for that in .NET Core, but it's only going to run on Windows anyway, so it probably not worth the effort. So there are better candidates for porting, and then candidates that maybe make more sense just to move to Windows containers or leave them the way they are. So we launched 2 tools over the summer. One is, I'll let you guess which is which. There's the AWS App to Container. Rich, can you guess which one that's for?
Let's see,
without reading the slide.
would that let me convert an app right into a container?
Hey, you're smart, man. So name, I saw that internally we were calling, but app to container. At least it's not like the .NET application containerization tool 2020 R2. So there is that. So it's used to containerize apps. I put in situ, kind of like it means where they are. It doesn't use the source code. It can take a deployed ASP.NET framework server app and analyze it and package it up, build the container, deploy it out to AWS for you. It'll even build a CI/CD framework, or sorry, CI/CD pipeline for you if you want. One supports ASP.NET on Windows. The other supports and I can show you the home pages of those in a minute. The other tool is the AWS Porting Assistant for .NET. This is not a command line tool. It's a Windows desktop app built on Electron, which is sort of like the way VS Code is. It actually does take the source code files as the input. You tell it to take an entire solution or a .cs project, and it will do an assessment to you to show you. Anyway, these are the two tools. I'm going to dive into a little more detail in a minute here. I'm going to do some demos for both of them, so you'll get to see me doing command line tools in PowerShell on a remote desktop, which I'm sure it will be as exciting as that sounds, I promise. Both of these support apps that are .NET Framework 3.5 or higher. There are limitations to both. At AWS, we tend to do stuff that's like minimum viable product. We launch it with like the minimum of features, and then we iterate on it. And 2 years later, it's got a bunch of stuff, right? So I expect both of these will go the same way. So app to container. This is a little graphic I ripped off of the intro page. For it, it analyzes your source code and the libraries. It can, sorry, app to container, my bad. I'm already jumping ahead to the porting assistant. App to container will analyze, you run it on a server where the app is deployed. It's just a PowerShell tool. It will query, the IIS metabase, get out, find out what the ASP.NET application details are, the metadata, the folder it's in. It will then look at all the libraries in the folder, figure out what .NET dependencies there are in the GAC, and it will then create the appropriate container for that. It'll create the Docker file. It will build a container with Docker under the hood, and then it can push the container up to, up to AWS. I'll go into this more in a minute, but it can deploy it and it can build a CI/CD pipeline. If you are running this on a server where your app is actually deployed, you might not be able to install Docker. So maybe you don't want to have it try to containerize it. So you can actually tell it to like extract out all the information needed to build the container. And then you can go run this on like another server where that does have Docker. If you don't really feel like installing Docker on the server where this app is deployed, and you might not be able to if it's pre-Windows Server 2016, you can't install Docker anyway. So really quick, the two or three or four things that it does in the main are it identifies all those apps I just talked about in the dependencies. It also uses regex matching to find database connection strings in like the web.config or app.config files. It'll prompt you to replace them if you have them. It will, I think I already said, create the container image. It'll push it up to Amazon ECR, which is the Elastic Container Registry, which is just sort of like an internal private Docker hub that's in your AWS account. If you're deploying to ECS, which is our original container orchestration suite, it'll create like it'll create the YAML. It'll also optionally, if you want, you can tell it to create a complete CI/CD pipeline for that. It'll create a complete pipeline such that every time you push an updated copy of this app into the container registry, it will automatically deploy that out to ECS or to Kubernetes. Okay, so last thing it does is it will generate CloudFormation templates. If you've only ever worked in Azure and you've worked with like ARM templates that like define a bunch of infrastructure, that's what CloudFormation is. CloudFormation supports both JSON and YAML. You can actually generate that. This is a sidebar, not related to this, but we actually have a new CDK, CloudFormation, the Cloud Development Kit that launched this year that has support for .NET. So you can actually build your stacks of resources in C#.NET code and then have it automatically then provision all that stuff. And it actually creates CloudFormation templates under the hood. But I think that's going to be a huge thing. And I think I mentioned this works on Java for Tomcat and Spring Boot and WebLogic, and actually WebSphere also is not listed there. Okay, so for those ready to see me join to, I'm not going to run the tool locally because it doesn't really support Windows 10. It supports, yeah, you see the space theme, Rich? You see that? I am going to remote desktop into an EC2 instance on which I have deployed this tool already. I'm going to do it from within the AWS toolkit for Visual Studio because I launched it from there, which means I can just click Open Remote Desktop and click OK, and it will automatically like log me into the server without me having to do anything. All right. So this is let me move this out of the way. This is a Windows Server 2019. Can you guys see that actually?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So that's working. Okay. I'm in PowerShell. So the app is called app to container. So once you've installed it, if I type app to container like version, I should get running version 1.0.2. Really quick, I'm gonna go show you the app that we're gonna containerize and do this for. And I went ahead this afternoon and I ran app to container and had it like deploy this thing out to, ECS. So it's actually been through it once because I wasn't sure, A, that it was gonna work, although it did. And B, it takes a little while for it to like analyze it and build the container. So if it takes too long to do some of this stuff, also my dog is trying to get me to play with a rope. Jeez, dog. Sorry about that.
Kirk, just so you know, you're in good company. I've got a
Yeah, my pet is really bothering me. I'm going to kick her out. Otherwise, she will not go away. So hold on. If I don't trip and kill myself. All right, where was I? All right, so this is inetpub www.root on this server, which you can see has the published website with no source code. Just a bunch of DLLs and some ASPX pages. The app that I'm going to be containerizing is, I have it up in a browser window. This is the server that I was just on. This is just an open source ASP.NET web forms app called blogengine.net. I basically just went into the set, I downloaded it, hit build, run, and I got to that EC2, the virtual machine that we were just on in AWS so that I could then run the tool to run the app to container tool. I think this thing has like an admin console that I can go into, which is there. It's a really slow, I wouldn't use this to run my blog, frankly, because it's pretty slow. Granted, I have it on a little tiny T3 medium or some really small Windows server, but still, it's pretty slow. Let's see. There you go. Content, published posts, 1. Okay, so you get back to the, oops. How do I move that thing? Can I move this bar at the top? The zoom bar? Wait, yes, I can. Look at that. Ta-da. All right. Okay, so anyway, this is the blog. The IP address is actually the public IP of the virtual machine that we were just on. And I also have locally a copy of this. The web publish activity is still there, and then copied all the files up. So this is the blogengine.net. There's 3 projects when you download this thing. There's the tests, the actual web project, and then there's the core stuff, which is just like a bunch of base classes and stuff that the web front end uses. So so this is the one that we're going to use app to container to actually do. Like I said, I did this once and I'll show you what it published it to, and I'll open up a browser and we can look at it. But the first thing you do is you can get an inventory of the app to container inventory. It'll show you the different apps that the IIS meta site. So that's what it found. It found this one. It's just the default website. And it gives it some, IIS has some ID for that internally. If I want to analyze that, that's just analyze command, which is ANALYZE, and then you specify the application ID. In this case, is that font big enough? I don't know if I can make it bigger. Is that Rich?
I'm seeing it pretty well.
Oh, okay. So this is the app ID right here. So this is the one we're going to analyze. and we'll see. It shouldn't take too long, I hope. While it's, does anyone have any questions about so far what I've mentioned? That this tool will, it basically finds the apps that are installed on a server. It lets you analyze it and then containerize it. Oh, too late. You can't ask any questions because it's already finished. So then it helpfully tells you the next steps. You can view the application analysis file at this location, edit it as needed. Then you can start the containerization command with that exact command. So we can go look at that. Actually, I'll go right to that. Here it is. There's the analysis JSON. I'll open it with Visual Studio Code. So it's a big JSON file. It basically just tells you stuff about the app. There's a bunch of metadata about it. Where's the physical path to the folder, features, site uses window off. So you know, I don't think there's really a lot to necessarily edit there. So let's just take the next step and start the containerization process. This is the one that took a while earlier today, but I think that's just because it was doing the Docker pull of the base image. So hopefully that means it will go much faster for us this time. If not, I will jump ahead, and it's flashing little green messages. So this tool currently is, if you discover, many corporate websites, they've got, IIS and a server, and there's like 5 different, or they just have apps direct. So you have to run this once for each app. Oh, yes, Rich.
Well, every so often there's a breakup, and I'm not sure if it's computer wise or if it's microphone wise, but you were breaking up right on that last part.
Let me make sure my CPU is not pegged again. For some reason it was.
You're coming through perfect right now, by the way.
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, I occasionally have, Amazon has their automated, like, to always run like right as at 5 p.m. or something stupid, which is really annoying.
Yeah, it's all right.
Oh yeah, now I'm breaking up for myself. Can anyone still hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, all right, okay. Yeah, and I think it is my CPU getting pegged somehow. I need to laptop. So, where was I? So containerization succeeded. So that was much quicker because it didn't have to pull that, the Docker pull, and you wait forever for the image to get pulled down. And Windows images, while they've gotten a lot more svelte, they are still nowhere near as small as like a Linux image. But once it's been pulled down, then it's already there and it's easy to do. So basically, these are all the stuff that it did. It extracted the container artifact. So I did the containerization on this machine. If I didn't want to do that, like if for some reason I was running Windows Server 2012, or I didn't want to install Docker on here, instead of doing the app to container containerize, I could have done extract, and it would actually extract out all the data it needs to make a container for this app, and it would stick it up into an S3 bucket, and then I could just go to my worker machine, pull that file down, and then do the app to container containerize, and then give it the file location, and I could do it there. So you can break this up into 2 different places. I'm just doing it all in one for simplicity. There's no way I could pull off a live demo of doing 2 PowerShells on 2 different machines. I'm just barely able to do the copy and paste with these. So generated a Docker file. So if we want to go look at the Docker file, we can go to here. If anyone doesn't know what a Docker file is, ask in the chat, and artifacts, there we go. So here's the Docker file. I open that with code. The Docker file just tells Docker how to build the layers of the image, including what the base image is. So the base image it's going to use is from Microsoft's image repository. No, I don't want to install extensions right now. And it's the 4.7.2 Windows Server Core Long-Term Support Channel 2019 release. That's the version of it's going to do the default website from that, and then it's going to basically copy in all of the published parts of the website. So that's where the Docker file comes into play. So if we go back to here, next steps, you did that. Oh yeah, you could go and actually do Docker images, and it will show me the images I've got built. So I have, there's the base, or the images I have locally, that's the base image. Here's one, it's already been tagged because this is the one when I ran it earlier today, it just tagged it with this repository that it's gonna push to. So normally, so when you set the deployment file as needed, I'm not gonna edit anything. I'm gonna say, generate the deployment artifacts using app to container, generate app deployment. Actually, I will go look at the deployment file. We'll go look at it. Deployment, so here's the deployment file. We can look at where it's gonna deploy to probably, and I guess you could make changes to this. It's gonna call it this stuff. EKS parameters. If you were going to manage Kubernetes, it's got stuff for that. It's also got stuff for ECS, like metadata, if you're deploying it to Amazon's original container orchestration. So I'm gonna get out of that. I'm just gonna go to the next step and then we'll keep going. Let's see. Next steps, when you're ready to deploy, please edit the deployment file, generate deployment artifacts. So we'll do that. We'll just copy that and paste. And go.
I like it when it gives you, here, do this.
I very much appreciate the do this next rather than having to refer back to notes. Interesting looking that it just keeps writing the same line over and over again. It takes a little while, but it's creating a task definition for ECS and a deployment YAML for, well, that's weird. Rich, your little box went down to just a picture of you. I don't know, maybe my bandwidth is.
Well, I did that in case it helps your bandwidth, actually.
Oh yeah, that might be true.
Yeah.
If my kids are streaming Netflix right now, that could be killing my bandwidth. That could very much be the problem we're having. I should probably go downstairs. If this takes too long, I will show you where we're going. I guess I can do that in the meantime while it's busy. Whoops, let me move this Zoom bar out of the way. Where can I move that? Oh, I can move it over to the other monitor. Oh, that's convenient. So I'll minimize this for a second. I'm going to go to the management console. I'm getting a warning that low system resources may affect my audio quality. So if you
Hey, you're right.
AWS account, the same account that it's deploying to, which is in Ohio. It failed because I went over my limit for like the number of gateways. There's a soft limit that keeps you from like creating too much stuff, and you have to request the limit to be raised. I didn't want to go through all that, so I just switched to Ohio. The thing it creates, I'll show you that it's going to create CloudFormation, which is the infrastructure as code solution that we use. So here's all the stuff that it's going to create. It deployed a load balanced web application onto ECS, and it created a bunch of stuff. So if I click into one of these and then look at the resources, I can see everything that it created. There's a bunch of stuff that it's created, target groups. Ultimately, I'm going to go to the, wow, yeah, my computer, this will not kill us. I'm going to go down to load balancing. So it's going to create a Windows server, and it's going to launch this container onto that and then let me scale it up. But it's going to put the, oops, one second. Let me figure out this console here. It's going to put the Windows Server cluster that it creates behind a load balancer. And then this is the load balancer's URL right here. Obviously, if you have a domain name that you've got registered that you have a certificate for, you could do that. We're not going to do that for this demo. So if I go to that URL, you will see the exact same modernization blog. I purposely picked blog. Oh, virtual backgrounds take more CPU. Oh, that's super useful to know. Let me find my Zoom and turn that off. Though. How do I get to?
I think you have to go up to the toolbar.
Oh yeah, participants. Oh, there we go. I see it. You're right. Choose virtual background and none. Maybe that'll get better. Let me know if that improves anything.
We'll keep an eye on it.
All right. So this is the end result if you just deploy this app using this command line tool. Let me get back to the tool. So it finished. It created a CloudFormation template and additional deployment artifacts generated successfully. So I can go there and look at the template, the file it created, the template file that will launch all of the server, networking and everything else is all going to be at this. It's this ECS master.yaml file. So I'm going to go right to that folder. Nope, I think it's right here actually, ECS. So this is a key that's used to, this is a private key used to get into a Windows server that if you need one, and you can use that when you launch EC2 instances so you can like remote desktop to them later. In this case, I wouldn't even need to do that because I'm assuming that these are containers and I never want to have to go in and poke around. I just want to like, I would just read.
I thought PEM was what made you turn into Ant-Man.
Oh, you know what? I think you're correct.
PEM particles?
Yeah, no, I remember. I saw Paul Rudd in that.
Yeah.
So this is the CloudFormation that it generated for me. It shows you all the stuff it's going to create on your behalf. It's going to let me go down a little bit. It's all it created it in YAML. I actually prefer it. I have trouble parsing YAML and getting the events right. But it's going to create a bunch of stuff. Here's app service parameters. These templates can be quite big, and it's great that this thing just generates it all for you, basically. Because if you go through and manually, you can the console and manually create a new ECS cluster and tell it, you want a Windows server, and then you can create the task definition and the you can do all that manually. And I've done that in a demo, but that's like a half an hour of creating all this stuff with a lot of clicks and very error prone. So it's kind of nice to have this tool that just did it for me. And at that point, I could say, okay, I'm going to follow the instructions and say, create an application stack. I could deploy this AWS and code for me. Oh, actually, I've already deployed it once. So instead of deploying it again, what I could do is, and I showed you the deployed app, that it's correct. So I didn't do this yet. I haven't never actually tried the generate pipeline component. This is the, oops, that's not working. Hold on. There we go. Generate pipeline. So let's see what that's going to do. Oh, fail.
Does it require the app to contain a colon before?
It shouldn't be a colon. It should be just like that. Yeah, I think it was right. It says failed generating pipeline resource templates for application. I wonder if this is because I've run it a second time. Oh, release specification cannot be empty or disabled. Must specify at least one of the following stages. Ooh. How do I specify a stage in generate pipeline? How about help? Hey, so you heard me when I say I've never done that before, right? Let's see. Application ID, deploy, and help. That's interesting. Must enable at least one of the following stages, beta, prod. we're going to skip generating the pipeline with this, and take my word for it that we do have customers that are generating the pipeline. I just didn't actually play with that part of it. I've only used the actual deploying it out, which if I go back up to, let's delete this, and then I'll copy and paste the command again. This command is actually not using app2 container. This is just using the AWS CLI CloudFormation template, which if I copy this and then hit paste, hit enter, it would then start, it would take that CloudFormation template, pass it to the AWS CloudFormation service, and then we could actually go and look at it in the console while it's creating this stuff. So if I went to I think I was just at CloudFormation over here. No, my bandwidth is really horrible. Oops. View stacks. It's going to kick this stuff off. Actually, because there's no changes, it might not redeploy. It's going to, the CloudFormation is very smart, and if it sees the template, it'll take the template, compare it to what's already been deployed, and if there's no changes, it won't do anything. It's idempotent. So that's potentially, yeah. So it's successful. So it worked. It successfully created and updated the stack. The CloudFormation didn't do anything just because. So, and then if we go back and look at in the console, if I go to ECS, Elastic Container Service, and keep in mind, when it generated the deployment artifacts, it also generated the YAML file for EKS, the Managed Kubernetes. So I could also deploy it to Kubernetes. If I come into here, here's the cluster it created. It created a service that runs on this cluster, which is the lovely, easy name of app2container IIS default website A7, blah, 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 blah. You can rename and edit that in the deployment artifact before you do it. We could have edited that in Visual Studio Code. Let me see if I can up the font on this. So it created it with a desired count of 1. We could have edited that, or we could just update the service and say, you know what, I want, the minimum, the number of tasks to be 4, right? And, I could adjust the placement strategies. There's a lot of stuff that I could go in and update. But if I just have an app that's running on a server on premise, and my mandate, I was told by my manager, get this into AWS, containerize it and get it up there. We've got 43 of these to do, and you've got 5 days to do it. I would probably use app2container, because if you try to do it all manually, that would be a lot of effort. So that's really pretty much all I really wanted to show. I will go, last thing, if I go into the ECR, which is our container repository, you can see that's the container repository. So this was the latest copy, was deployed at 10:06 at 7:16 p.m. So the tool, when I containerize it, it did push that image up here. It's 820 megabytes, which is not so bad, but that's still bad for a Windows container. It's built on Windows Server Core, which is actually, I didn't realize it was that small actually. Now I thought they were still 1.3 gigabytes. So Microsoft perhaps has shrunk it down even more than I thought. Let me kill the stuff I talked about. If you wanted earlier, if you were here when I first started out and saying that I showed the internal, we participated in publishing out an alpha of for .NET Core. By the way, this is I'll put this link in the chat.
Excellent.
I should have done that way back in the beginning. All right. So this was it running on premise, actually on an EC2 instance, and this is it running in a container. Other than the URL flopping, you can see that these are the same, right? So that's the very quick and easy, and it deployed up perfectly. When I did this the first time, it just worked, which was super nice. When I did it to Ohio, I should say. When I tried to do it to Oregon, it immediately complained I didn't have enough, EC2 instances and internet gateways that it could create, so I had to then change regions. Did anybody have questions about this tool? I am going to show you this is the app2container homepage. For every AWS service, if you go to aws.amazon.com/service name, you will see the homepage for that. That'll lead you, show you the, like, I think there's some customers who are using it, like Slalom, who has offices locally. I don't know. Oh, Cognizant, which has got a huge platform for health insurers, their Blue Cross Blue Shield. Accenture, which is always interesting to me because they started off as like, oh, that was Avanade, never mind. Accenture's just a consulting firm. Annika, which is a great partner of ours, is to just en masse move, to containerize and move these apps to AWS. All right.
Kirk, is there a chance you chatted that directly to somebody instead of to the group? You look at the chat window, it might say.
Oh yeah, it says from me. Oops. Let me do that to everyone. My bad. There you go. That's the link to the core WCF GitHub page. It's helped. I'm going to kill this unless you see me do more. Because I know how fun those are. Okay. All right. And I'll flip back for a minute just to talk a little bit about, oh, of course, that's swap. All right. Ta-da. So before I start into the second tool, which is the porting assistant, I first wanted to talk a little bit about different ways of using AWS Lambda and serverless with .NET, because it's fine for me because I'm working with a customer right now that is, they are in the process of porting 2 different legacy ASP.NET monoliths to .NET Core and Lambda. And so there's a couple different ways. Rich is smiling. So this customer is based in California. They're in the title business. For people who have bought a house, you probably remember signing 800 copies of stuff. So they're sort of like, what version of Kubernetes does CloudFormation provision now? It's the latest supported version that EKS supports, because it's actually deploying it to a managed Kubernetes cluster using AWS EKS. So somebody can probably Google that and just, or go to the Amazon, aws.amazon.com/EKS, go to the docs, and it will probably tell you the latest version, or we could check it a little later, but that's a great question. So the first thing, if you're going to run .NET code in a Lambda function, we support .NET Core, not .NET Framework. We were actually the first major cloud provider to support .NET Core. We launched it in 2016, we beat Azure by like 2 weeks, so that was a huge clapping hands thing internally. So the one thing I want to talk about is we publish this sort of shim NuGet package. It's called amazon.lambda.ASP.NET Core server. And that's represented by the orange parallelogram thing that I have in the diagram. That top line represents API Gateway. If you've ever used API management in Azure, this is a very similar experience. We call it API Gateway. It acts as a facade where HTTP requests, terminate, and then those requests can get proxied to things that are behind them, including Lambda functions, which is our serverless platform. So there's a few different ways that you can go about taking your existing ASP.NET app. First, you need to, either port the entire thing to .NET Core, or peel off pieces and port them. But once you've got your ASP.NET Web API or MVC or even Razor Pages in .NET Core, you can choose how you're going to port that to Lambda functions, right? So the quickest and easiest and least desirable way would be just take the entire MVC or Web API website, take the whole thing and stick it in a single and run it. So that would probably mean that whatever the backend data store is, if it's SQL Server, you're probably still using that for the app, which means it would be shared among all the different entities. This is not a great use of Lambda because it results in like a heavy and slow Lambda function. I've actually done it even for real tools that I've used internally. You know, I made a tool to generate C# binding classes automatically for a service that we have called Event Bridge. So I've done it, but only because there was almost no UI anyway, right? But generally, it's not a great thing because your Lambda function then becomes this entire ASP.NET website. It takes there's a lot of code. ASP.NET has a lot of like scaffolding code in it. The cold start time when your Lambda function starts up, if it hasn't been running in a while, and if you have new features to keep it warm, it's going to be slower. It's going to use more memory and CPU, and Lambda function is billed. The pricing is by like memory and CPU, so it'll be more expensive to do it that way. So at the very least, you should strip out all the UI, your Angular, JavaScript, and everything else in the image, and stick those into an S3 bucket or something to not have it get pumped out by your little Lambda function. A better way to go would be you're going to run an ASP.NET app in Lambda, to break it up so that like each controller is in its own Lambda function, and maybe or maybe you have two controllers for the same kind of entity. If you do that, then you know each function is a lot smaller. It only has to, you know, it doesn't need like every kind of entity and DB context. It just needs it works with. So you have less code, it's smaller, it runs quicker. It's still, in that case, it would still be using that shim, that ASP.NET, the ASP.NET core server. You know what, I'm going to put the name of this NuGet package into the chat. So let's see.
Just do Alina though.
Yeah, it was almost to just Peter, so luckily I checked that. Whoops, it's the Amazon, if I could type, I'd be dangerous. Amazon.lambda.ASP.NET core server. So this is the magic NuGet package. It's a shim, and I'll talk more about that in a second, but at least if you've broken it out, so you only have one controller, so you've sort of broken it out into actual microservices at that point. And then each microservice, each Lambda function could have a different data store if you wanted. Maybe one of them is using DynamoDB and a SQL database. Maybe one's using a graph database like Neptune, or, you know, it's more of a microservice architecture at that point. What that shim actually does is when HTTP requests come in from browsers or from Postman or from an app or a mobile app, they come in and hit API Gateway. API Gateway takes that request, it serializes it to a JSON bag, adds a bunch of metadata to it, and then passes it off to a Lambda. Well, it's JSON bag, but if you add this little NuGet package, it will basically translate all that and then recreate an actual HTTP request and then pass it off to, you know, so that like startup, your configure services and so on will then work. So the best way to go though, it's a little bit more effort than that, and that's not running ASP.NET code at all. So that way you don't need the shim, you don't need the ASP.NET core sort of scaffolding. It's got, I call these sort of vanilla Lambda functions. So these, it's literally just a function. You can have all the classes, you can put it in multiple, but it doesn't have to do that translation either. In other words, normally if I'm using that shim, that JSON gets translated into an HTTP request and, you know, return person or it gets serialized, you know, to JSON, and then it has to go through that reverse translation layer again. It's pretty quick, but still it uses memory and there's a little bit of tiny bit of time used up. So if you strip all that out, your function will literally just get the a JSON bag, although it'll get serialized into a class for you at least, and then you work on the raw that raw request data and return it back. It's got the fastest cold. So more work with the routing, the controllers and stuff, but really you should be doing the routing at the API gateway layer anyway. That's what the API gateway can do for you. It lets you set up routes and obscure the back end. And your authentication and authorization can all be done at the API gateway layer too. So you don't need to use like you don't need to. So really quick, I just wanted to show what that looks like. Let me see what I'm gonna do. I think I have, on bigger in a second. But what I wanted to do first, the reason I had it really small is I wanted to show, one second, I'm trying to get some other stuff on my screen in the right now. Okay, I wanted to show like if I do .NET new dash, I did dash all to show all the templates I have installed. And the reason I made it small is if just for this, if you make it bigger, they end up getting all wacky looking. If you look on here, you'll see I have a bunch of, I have a bunch of these .NET Core templates that are installed that are specific to AWS, serverless and varieties. The ones that are marked serverless use the shim. The ones that are just marked do not use the shim. If you have, now I'll make this bigger. There we go. I love Windows, the new terminal, because you can just
Very good.
scroll wheel, make your stuff bigger, right? If you have templates installed, you can install them with .NET new install Amazon templates. .NET new -I for install templates. That will install all those templates for you. And if you do that, you can say create a new serverless one by typing like this. See how fast I type that? That's amazing. Do serverless ASP.NET Core Web API. So this is like an actual ASP.NET one I can create, and I'll call it Lambda Web API and have the Web API folder. You can also do each of these from Visual Studio. I am going to close down the blog engine Visual Studio to free up some memory because Zoom keeps complaining that I'm using up all my resources. All right. So the AWS toolkit for Visual Studio installed. You can also do it from Visual Studio and choose either the Lambda or the serverless type. So if I go CD into Lambda Web API and then do and look at that, oops, it opened it up in the other window. It creates source and test. I could actually, you know what, I'll just open this code in Visual Studio. And wow, I'm going to lose some resources again, so hopefully I'm not chopping up too much.
It's probably that OneNote.
Yeah, it's probably OneNote, exactly. So if I come into here, if you do this as a serverless, it's using the shim. If I, in addition to the startup, instead of program.cs, it's got the equivalent of program.cs called local entry point. Let me see if I can make the font bigger. Yeah. So the local entry point is just like program.cs. It has the main create host builder, create default builder, configure web host, and you can stick stuff in here that you want to run at startup. This is what happens if you run this app locally. So I could run this locally, and this is the version, but in a Lambda function, it uses this, and there's tons of comments in here because we've added so much stuff over time, and they're using a discussion going on of, do we make more templates or use a template? People are winning. This is the part that actually gets run if you're running this in the Lambda. So here it's the same basic thing. It's builder.use startup. One run if it's on my laptop. So if I go to terminal new terminal. And then in here, if I, let's see, cd src, what's the folder name again? dir Lambda Web API. Okay, cd Lambda API, and then .NET run. So if I did that, or if I was in Visual Studio, I could have right-clicked and said like, run, or click the little run bar. It's gonna run the code in the local entry point. So again, this uses that that allows you to run ASP.NET in a Lambda function. I probably didn't actually need to run this, so I'm gonna kill it here. Maybe. Oh, there it goes. It's I will follow link. That's nice. Where it's actually doing it. Oh, it's probably doing it over here. Oh yeah. So slash API slash values, I think. Is that the values controller? Yay. Okay. So this is just that values controller. So it's running locally. And then we will see Control C, I think, is stopping it. I'm just going to kill this entire thing now. Okay. So that looks very different than a vanilla Lambda function, which I wanted to show. So if I did .NET new, but instead of the serverless web API, if I instead did .NET new lambda.empty function, and I'll call it plain lambda, template lambda. Okay, so cd plain lambda, and then code. Whoops, my caps lock is on. Code this, and we can look at what that looks like. It doesn't have a startup or a lambda entry point or any of that stuff. It's just going to be this function. This is the entire thing. It's using serialization so that I'm getting in this case, string as an input. If I was actually going to put this behind API gateway, I could get, yes, fine, restore. I could get different, I would put a different type on this input parameter, but there isn't all the other stuff. It becomes just, I could have it literally take a string, and then, I mean, the default boilerplate is to upper. We have some other boilerplate you can, but the other stuff. There's no startup.cs, there's no controllers, nothing. I mean, I can use Entity Framework Core, I can talk to a database, I can do all that stuff. It's just that there's less stuff. It's not a native web project. It's literally just a .NET. Technically, it's a .NET console app, I think, is what it technically is. So, all right. Did anybody have any questions about that before I jump back? Is everyone familiar with, has everyone been using .NET Core from the command line? Do we have people that have not used .NET Core at all?
I've used
No?
.NET.
All right. Awesome.
I want to do more.
Just awesome. All right. So let's see. It's going to keep doing that every time because my computer. So that brings us to the other tool, which I'm going to try to speed up a little bit. The porting assistant for .NET. It lets you basically get an assessment of stuff. It will even do a basic kind of port of the project for you. The assessment uses like code analysis. It looks for the compatibility of new packages and just for code that it knows is making calls that are not going to be compatible with .NET Core. So you run this for an existing ASP.NET framework project. It generates a compatibility score for each project. It does some porting. This is a minimum viable product, so you're not just going to sit down with your ASP.NET framework app and go, oh, port, click the button, and magically it's all, compiling fine, building fine in .NET Core. It's not happened yet. Eventually, maybe we'll get closer to that. It will do some interesting stuff for you, but this is what it looks like, which you're going to see in a minute anyway, because I'm going to pull it up and show you what it looks like. So, is it NOP Commerce, NOP Commerce?
What about NUP Commerce?
Have you heard of it?
Yes.
Okay. It's an open source e-commerce
Yeah.
website originally built in ASP.NET Framework, MVC, .NET Core. However, it just makes a nice app to assess in the porting assistant. I'm going to assess another much smaller one, and then I'll port that one first. But I wanted to click in. I've already run the assessment, but for this solution, I told it the solution file. I picked the solution file, and it analyzes all the projects in the solution. So there's 31 projects that are in this solution. It generates an overall score that 71% of the code is, compatible to .NET Core. So that's not bad, actually. The incompatible NuGet packages, there's 43. Out of the 870 APIs it found, 256 of them are incompatible and would require code changes. If I look at the different projects by their portability score, like some of these, like the Canada Post plugin, are 97% compatible. That's going to be pretty easy to convert to .NET Core. As I go down the list, they're going to be worse and worse if I sort it that way. Nop.core is sort of one of the base projects in this that a lot of things depend on. And speaking of dependencies, this will draw you a nice dependency graph. So I can see if I click here, lots of stuff, pretty much everything depends on Nop.core. It's got a bunch of classes that it defines that are used everywhere. Nop.web.framework is used in a bunch of places also. It's used by all these plugins that are used in that web framework. Nop.services is the other big one. So this sort of lets me visualize, where should I start? I might want to start with Nop.core because that way it enables me to port, the things that depend on it. So this is just a nice, handy dependency generator, dependency graph generator. And you can export this assessment into a bunch of CSV files. We're working on improving that also. If I click View Details, it'll take me back to the specific packages that are in the selected project. Let me go back up for a second. Here's the solution. If I go down to like Nop.core, which was 89%, if I drill into just that project, I can get just the dependency of that. Let me see, if I scroll down here, I'm not sure, it's getting cut off a little bit. Can I change the size of a little bit maybe? Okay, so it's showing me different packages and the ones that are either compatible or it found or the ones that it found a compatible replacement. If I scroll to the other end of that, eventually I'll get into the ones that are not compatible. So if I go look at, so this is one, it's only used in one place. In one place, but there's 5 calls to that one. So maybe I want to, adjust that. And then I can actually dig into the actual source files. Hello. And I can sort by like incompatible. Okay, so in this particular C# class, I can scroll down. It'll show me like scope.resolve_t. That's incompatible. Like that's a piece of code I'm going to have to rewrite when I port this to .NET Core. So as of right now, it gives you down to the line of the code level of like pile. But it's not actually going to really fix anything for you. It's just showing you this. And then finally, I'm not going to try to port this one because it makes a giant mess. Instead, let me go to Assessed Solutions. I'll assess a new solution, choose a file. And then let me see where I have the one I want to use, which is the unicorn. Here it is. 1 second. So this is we have a .NET modernization sort of self-paced lab that you can do using an open source project. I'll give you guys a link to that afterwards. These projects as the, oops, can I choose? Yeah, solution file. So I'll choose this and say assess. So now it's going to run an assessment on that. Not commerce overall, it gave us 71%. That's, it's not horrible. I can see why the not commerce team have a lot of purple, stuff specific to like Windows and so on. Okay, so this thing has finished porting, or sorry, finished assessing it. Click on it really quick. I'll go look at the dependency graph. This one's much simpler. There's Unishop. There's a project that depends on that called Unishop legacy.tests. If I go to the NuGet packages, it's a much shorter list. Instead of like 31 pages, there's just 3. A lot of these are compatible, or there's known compatible upgrades, which it lists in the suggested. There are some incompatible ones like Entity Framework. We could upgrade it to 6.3 or move to EF Core. So I'm going to actually port this project. Let me go back to projects. I'll pick unit. I'm not going to port the unit tests. I'll just say port. It's going to port to because it's remembering from the last time I did this legacy. Can I copy that? Maybe. Let's see if I can copy and paste that. No. Okay. Well, I'll just manually navigate there in a minute. You can choose whether you're going to go to 2.1 or 3.1. Strongly recommend 3.1. And when .NET 5 comes out, as soon as there's support for wherever you're going to run it, I would do that. It's suggesting to me that it can automatically upgrade the NuGet package for Entity Framework to 6.4. So I'll do that, and then click port. Now, the port is not actually rewriting code. The thing it's taking my existing CS proj file and it's creating a new one that's targeting .NET Core 3.1, a bunch of other changes. The CS proj files did change between ASP.NET Framework or .NET Framework and ASP.NET Core. CS proj files are different. It's automatically added the NuGet packages using the new NuGet package, NuGet package syntax. So it's basically redone all the project files and stuff for me, which saves some trouble, but for me. This step is not a hugely useful thing yet, but I will. Where did I put that? Source. 1 second. Let me drag the window over so I'm not just talking into empty air. Encore ports. This tool internally, when it was being developed, was called Encore. Wait a minute. Where did it go to? Ported. Let me go to the porting page again. Failed to port. File not found. Oops. Port destination. Ian Core ports. Oh, because I deleted the folder. I think that's probably why. Yes, I need to recreate the folder. This is like a bug I think I need to tell them about, that if I delete the folder, then it will refuse to go there, which is kind of annoying, instead of just recreating it. Unicorn shop legacy. All right, now I'll port it again. And target on, and hopefully this time it'll work. Dum, dum, dum. Is it writing anything into there? Where was it? Here it was. Uh-oh.
Something.
Yeah, I wonder if I somehow messed it up by, like it says it's ported, but this is not, yeah, so it's still failing to port it because of me having deleted something, I think. It's kind of really annoying me because I was going to show that. This was this the ported one? Maybe it's unable to overwrite the existing one. Let me see. Properties. Man, my computer's really slowing down. Nope, this is the legacy one. So this is the app as it was. I apologize. I think I ruined the demo by having done it once earlier today, and now it's like failing to source Ian Port's Unicorn Shop Legacy. View details, port. It's not showing me where it ported to anymore. It's just annoying me that, okay, Unicorn Shop Legacy. I apologize again. Am I spelling this right? Unicorn Shop Legacy Ian Core Ports. Yeah, that should be working. I will try this one last time, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to apologize, and then we'll go to the questions phase of why didn't it work? This was working fine at like 2 o'clock this afternoon when I've done it. It says it ported it, but I feel like it's lying to me. It's lying to me. Look, there's nothing there. Okay. Wow. And the really annoying thing is I feel like it's not letting me change the path where I want to port it to. When I did it earlier, and I've done this app a bunch of times for different apps, but I just haven't gone back and done the same one again. It asked me what folder to port it to, but now it is not allowing me to do that. So I could just try killing the app. And then we'll see if I kill it and restart it. Who knows? Instant for .NET. I probably should have removed that one and then killed the app. Let's do that just in case. That may work. Yeah, let me remove this. Actions, remove. It doesn't help that my computer is barely responding to me because something is locking it up.
Are we going to start a GoFundMe for your
Yeah, I need a new laptop, people. Okay, I'm going to remove it, otherwise it'll keep trying to assess it using even more CPU. I'm in a catch-22. I don't have enough CPU to select this. Okay, remove. All right, now I'll kill it and restart it. So being built on Electron is kind of weird. Like, I'm not sure quite why we did that, but I think it was just a really rapid way to build this thing.
Everyone's doing that nowadays. Microsoft's doing that nowadays. Come on.
Be the go-to. All right, let's just try this again. I should go delete the app settings folder where this thing is, and that would do it. Okay, we'll try one more time. I might actually have to do that, like find the app settings folder where this thing is actually installed, and then working on it. Come on, Windows. Working on it. Ay, 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 ay. While it's, did that finish assessing, by the way? Nope, the assessment was still in progress. I'm going to go to Kirk Davy, and then I just want to see, where's the app settings folder? App data, I bet that's it. This is the porting assistant, so it should be.
It's there.
Oh, nope.
There was a porting assistant.
There was?
Yep.
I saw app to container. It's right there.
Type PO.
PO? Oh yeah, how did I not see that? Jeez. Pending. Update info.
Yeah, that's from yesterday.
Yeah, that's just like the installer though. Where's the actual, that's the yeah, anyway, we'll see. We'll just talk our way through it. It's still assessing it. It says, doesn't normally take this long, so I'm not quite sure why. I will say that the next slide was the last one that says discussion and Q&A that we could have discussion now. It's already 8 o'clock, so I think I've gone probably longer than I thought I was going to go anyway. So questions, comments, discussion, I'm open. I really wish this was working because it works. When it works really well. I think this was a tool that we were asking us for. We kept saying, well, Microsoft has like the compatibility and portability analyzer, and you can use it and more functionality. So we started working on this and put it out there. And I think we do have customers using it. Typically, the use case is where they have like 300 different .NET apps, and they want to pick 5 of them to do .NET Core, and they want to try to get an idea. So they run this across a bunch of different projects, get the assessment scores, and then literally go with whichever one has the highest, the top 5 highest portability scores is what they do first. Yeah, this is not really sure why this is taking so long. It's clearly something wrong. So I apologize.
Maybe it's PowerPoint.
I really wish I knew where it was storing the stuff. To yes, that did work. Oh, roaming. Oh, maybe it's in roaming. Porting assistant for .NET. Ta-da! There we go. Let me kill this bad boy, and then just delete the entire folder. Code cache. Yeah, what happens if I delete everything? What do you think?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Will it run at all? Let's see. Delete. But it's only in the recycle bin, so I can bring it back if
You can find those
if I need
items.
to. Yeah, exactly. Items. It's still delete. I think having.
There you go.
I think my hard drive. Something's not working well. Maybe Zoom is pegging me. I'll try this very last time. If not, take my word for it. It's a useful product. I like the dependency graph. It's a way to really easily visualize what you want to do. Okay, so it looks like this has been reset. I agree to share my usage data with the service. I'm checking this because I want to be a good citizen. It's not sharing your actual code. It's just sharing like the NuGet packages it found that were incompatible. And if you share, that helps us make this better. We're not, regardless of what you think, we're not trying to do that. So I'll try this one last time.
By the way, Chris points out that you didn't have a picture of a kitten, so the demo gods are upset.
Oh, I didn't have a picture of Git. Was that the problem?
No, the kitten.
Oh, the kitten. Oh, yeah.
But there is
demo gods are. Oh, you didn't show a picture of a kitten, so I'm reading his comment now. Yes, this is very true. The demo gods. I didn't make a sacrifice.
There is a kitten in the picture.
That's right. You have one. I just need to mirror your image. You have good luck. Now that your cat's looking, I bet this is going to work fine.
That's right.
All right. So meanwhile, because my computer seems to be choking to death, what I'll do is I'll kill PowerPoint. That's probably using 50 gigabytes. Whoa, what is all this stuff?
Oh, no, those are things you've done in the past. Those
Oh, yeah, okay. For a half a second, I thought I had somehow opened up 53 PowerPoints. So, and that would have been the problem. All right, so this is the discussion phase. Is anyone interested in trying out the app to container reporting assistant tool? It's really easy to set up. Share screen. Reporting assistant, easy to download and run it. So you click that and literally it gives you the pop-up. I can kill my .NET blog because I'm going to tear that thing down pretty soon. Yeah, anything else? Discussion, questions? I can.
Andrew, you came off mute. What do you got?
I'm right here.
Yeah. Tell us.
Hey, I'm listening.
Give us insight.
Like a good recruiter should.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this thing I've done something horrible. I probably need to uninstall it or something. I don't know what I did, but it's clearly the demo gods have ruined my machine.
Yep. You're going to have to get a cat now.
Yeah, well, my dog is clearly it's not working.
Your dog may have jinxed it.
I am a
Show
dog.
me your resume now.
Yeah, I'll probably get fired for this. Let's see.
Peter, do you have something?
I think it's Zoom is just absolutely killing my machine.
I'm in Zoom on a daily basis.
Let's see. There's something doing it. Yes, Windows. Thank you for asking. Let me see. Yeah, my Zoom is using 19%.
That's not too bad. I've seen more.
I don't know what's using up.
My folding app is using 71% of my CPU.
Yeah, this is really weird. I've got CPT host using a fair amount, but it doesn't. I don't know. Now it's down to 60, so who knows? I installed that, and then what I'll do is I will really quick. Come on. I'm very persistent. Resetting that up, but yeah, Rich, you've got the floor, man.
Well, I just point out Zoom is hitting around 4% on mine. So
Yeah, my laptop is 2 years old, and I've got a bunch of crap running on it.
this is a desktop and it's got an old AMD. I don't know.
Yeah, the processors actually for the last couple of years now. We've had AWS run on a lower cost AMD. We have Intel Xeon, AMD, are they Epic, Rome, something like that. And then we have different ARM processors, including the graph you can run. So that's always a cool demo, is to take an ASP.NET Core project, and then on my Windows laptop, I can, I can run the code, and then I can push it up to an ARM server, publish it in release mode, specify the flag for the architecture, and then push it up on ARM, and it will run on a super cheap, and they are really cheap, ARM processor. So ARM is just slowly taking over, I swear.
That's what Apple says.
Wow, my computer is pegged right now. I don't know
I know
what else I can.
It's the task manager. Show us your task manager.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just really weird. It's not normally pegged, so I don't know what it is. I am really good. While we're talking though, I'm gonna try this one last time. Let's see.
Who else has
I mean, it
questions
didn't
out there?
not work. It just, yeah, questions, comments. Everyone needs to have a cat. I disagree with that strongly. I think cat people have a special form of psychosis, but that's just me,
That's why we have 3 cats in our house. Because we're special.
What's the somebody I was watching on YouTube once said, the difference between cats and dogs is like, with a dog, you give it food and shelter, and you give it a bed, and you take it for walks and pick up the poop and all this stuff. And the dog is like, wow, you must be a god.
Yeah.
And that's it for the cat. And the cat's like, wow, I must be a god. Yep. Everyone's doing all this stuff for me.
Cats mirror my attitudes much closer. So there you go.
Hey, look, it finished.
Woo!
It finished assessing this time. Woo! Click in and port, baby. Port it. Port the project.
Quick, before it breaks.
Write method. Modify, copy, choose the folder. Here we go. See, I knew it was going to work once I uninstalled and reinstalled it, because that's what you should always have to do. Save. My computer is grinding into slow-mo because my CPU is at 96%. Ho hum. Okay. .NET 3.1 and sure, upgrade to, there we go. Sometimes when it sees an app, it will see that there's API calls you're making right now with the current version of. So it'll be smart enough to know that if you upgrade to a newer version, that API has been implemented in the newer version, and so it'll show you that like, oh, there's 3 API calls. If you upgrade, then they'll be fine. Okay, so now it finished porting it. So now I can go to that folder wherever I was here. For those few of you still sticking with me. All right, now if I open this up in, wow, the right click is killing me. You know, you can't right click.
You,
Okay, open with, I will use the full Visual Studio here.
oh yeah, that's gonna help.
I want to,
Yeah.
I really want to stress the CPU out.
You might want to say everything you're going to real quick before it crashes.
Yeah, your audio just chopped out as it was trying to launch.
See?
Visual Studio is such a beast. I should use Visual Studio Core because it's a .NET Core.
It's a core beast.
Eventually, this will happen. All right, it's still loading in the background. It says, but whatever. Go to Corn Shop Legacy. Oh yeah, I promised to give you the URL to our GitHub that has that. I click on properties and come to here. The target framework is now .NET Core 3.1. If I look at the NuGet packages, wow, this is like working in a 1997 computer. On installed. These are all the compatible ones that it found, that it added the references to automatically for me. Looks like there's still an update anyway. Maybe I didn't update the entity framework one. If I could go to EF6, then that would probably solve a bunch of my stuff. The code itself, it did not rewrite. So if I go in, you know, controller is a controller. If the ASP.NET Core controller is not materially different than an ASP.NET 4.x controller, really, for Web API. In here. But at least it did some of the stuff for me, right? So that's what it was supposed to do. That should have happened half an hour ago. I am going to kill Visual Studio now in order to free up 18 gigabytes of RAM, probably. All right, I'm going to kill this thing, and then what I'm going to go back to is to show you. Oh wait, I lost the? Oops, 1 second. I lost my browser. Here we go. If you go to GitHub. GitNub or GitHub.com, AWS, is it AWS? Let's go to Unicorn, Unishop. Well, that's mine.
They're down at the bottom, very last thing there.
Look at my browser history. Yeah, not that one. Sorry. GitNub, not suitable for work. True. The science of good chocolate. I feel like clicking on that. Trying to remember that it's the .NET Modernization. You know what? I'll just go to my GitHub because I'm a member of the repo, so I should be able to get to that. Show more. There's Paul Fryer, .NET on AWS, serverless. These are all
new
my
manager of a dev
repos.
team that Andrew's setting up.
Am I a manager of a dev team?
No.
Oh, that
No,
would be
Paul.
like my nightmare.
Paul Fryer is going to be. Andrew's going to hook him up.
Oh yeah, I think that's a good idea. Here it is, unishop.net. Oh no, that's mine. Sorry. It started off there, and then it became a your organizations. Is that it? Yes, AWS samples. It is AWS samples. Okay. / there we go. Net modernization. I had the link somewhere, but it was more fun to watch me try to find it blindly stumbling around the internet.
Always.
This is a workshop. There's a lab at modernization.workshop.aws that you can walk through, just a static link up, about modernizing your unicorn store, and they're going to come out with like, you know, unicorn Uber and all kinds of stuff that you need to do, so that it just walks you through sort of modernizing that app, and then in different ways to serverless and to containers, and putting API gateway in front, and hosting the static websites in the actual code that you use is all, and the instructions on getting that code and what the different pieces are. It's all here in this, and I'll paste this URL to everyone now that Rich has reminded me of that. Okay. End of everything. Rich, back to you, man.
Folks, do you have questions? Go ahead and unmute and ask questions at this point. What a quiet group. I don't think they've ever been this quiet.
Everybody's gone but me and you. That's the problem.
That's it. They left the connection going, but they went to the kitchen.
How do I say? Oh, they're participants. There's still 22 people in here? Oh my God, people, speak up.
Hey, I'm here. I appreciate the presentation. I found it interesting. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Jack is sending Z's, so he's probably.
Yeah, I put him to sleep.
Bill, how's things on the East Coast?
It's late there. It's 11.
Yes. Yes.
Bill, you're still up?
Yeah, I'm still up.
He's in his pajamas though. That's why he turned the video off.
Yeah.
I miss our Thirsty Lion dates, Bill.
Yeah,
Me too. Seriously, I have beer downstairs, and I'm gonna have one in about 2 minutes.
In a 32-ounce Slurpee cup, Michael?
You could have told Rich not to record this, and you could have drank while presenting.
Oh, that would have been like it went so well.
Well, whatever.
Andrew?
It went fine.
Stop.
I'm not sure why you have to not be recorded to do that. You just put it in the right container, and it's not really an issue.
Yeah.
So
Oh no,
how-
it's not that. I'm just
That's what
thinking.
Michael's doing, right? Michael, you've got the right container. No one would know that's booze.
So how will we be able to access the recording of this? I noticed it's been recorded.
YouTube.
Okay.
Randomly. You're just going to have to hope to find it out there, much like Kirk did with the GitHub stuff.
Yes. Just keep clicking on random links in YouTube
I know. I'll search for.
until you find the right video. There's just a few.
I'll search for AWS. That'll be easy. How many could there be?
Yeah.
Don't search for AWS Kirk, because there's literally like 3 or 4 different videos of me horribly that are out there. And there's this one video of a reInvent presentation I did like 2 years ago, and every month, every 2 months maybe, someone would me out of the blue and be like, hey, I saw your reInvent presentation from 2018, and can you tell me how I would use, I don't know, app mesh with that, or what about Envoy proxy, and what would I do? It's just like, oh my God, people still look at this thing. It's 2 years old. Let it go.
Michael, I posted our YouTube channel on the chat here.
Okay. Thank you.
And if you don't get it right now, you can always go look at the recording and find the chat. Oh, wait, no.
Yeah,
There he is.
So thank you.
Wow, that is a sparse room, Kirk.
I know. That's why I put these things up behind me. Everybody kept saying I look like I'm in an ISIS hostage video.
I'm not sure they're wrong.
That's my other son. That's not the same one that was photobombing me earlier. Sure.
Sure it is. Sure it is. That's one of your captors.
Yeah. I feel like that sometimes. Anyone who has kids knows exactly that that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to look around my room. It's there's a lot of stuff going on over
But
here.
you know what it was, Rich?
What's
I
that?
stopped screen sharing, and my CPU is down to 34% now, and it's just continually dropping. So sharing the screen was just killing it.
Oh, I bet you it's your you have a inbuilt graphics card, like the Intel or something, maybe?
No, I have an NVIDIA, but I don't know that Zoom was using it. I have an NVIDIA discrete graphics card.
Are
But,
you sure it's active? Because my laptop, I recently realized, was using the Intel and not the NVIDIA, and I had to actually change it. And it was like, oh,
Yeah.
look at that. Everything's faster now.
Yeah, you have to do it. It uses it, but it's like on an app by app basis because it's trying to be smart.
Yeah.
And like I have Visual Studio using the NVIDIA card, but I don't think I haven't told it to use Zoom. So maybe Zoom isn't smart enough to use it, or the system's not smart enough. So maybe I need to go
changed
add
it.
Zoom to the list.
My laptop is just using the NVIDIA now. I don't even care about the other stuff.
Yeah.
But my work method now is I've got two UHD screens in front of me here. So I log into the laptop from here, and then the laptop logs into my
Oh, right.
to the work VM.
Well, I should say
Michael's gonna
my
show-
laptop has an NVIDIA card, but this is a 2.5. It's like a early 2018 laptop with a mobile laptop NVIDIA card. So it's not exactly, I'm not using ray tracing for my video games on this thing.
So Michael, is the one up above connected to the computer too?
Yeah, the one up above is actually a 4K, so that I treat it as 4 screens.
Yeah,
So-
I've got my TV wired in also, but
The thing about 4K, you can't have it very close to really make it effective.
I tried to grab one of those RTX 3080s on day one, and yeah, no luck there.
I have a
NVIDIA.
Dell 34-inch screen, but it's like 30 or something by 4K. So I pulled up the NVIDIA console, which then immediately updated the app to
Maybe that's the
customize
problem.
game
It's
settings.
So I worked
Yeah,
at I worked at Intel for a while. We were trying to convince Microsoft to convert their desktop to a three-dimensional 3D environment, just so that the people could use more CPU power.
CPU and GPU.
Because
But they made a holographic CPU,
Yep.
HPU.
so Kirk, you're making Intel very happy now by using your Intel processor to do the graphics crunching.
Oh yeah, because it's so powerful. And the 3D thing reminds me. I remember like WebGL. There was a period of like 2001-ish where you could make three-dimensional websites using, instead of HTML, it was like what was it called? There was some 3D markup language, and then you could make like a 3D room, and the browser was like a window going in and out of it.
Well, WebGL is still active today, not much. It's actually been replaced by, I think it's EGL.
Yeah, and I think it was WebGL, but I actually don't remember what it was exactly. I just remember playing with it, and everybody was like, "This is going to be the new thing," and I kept thinking like, "I don't think so."
Chris is right. VRML.
VRML, that was it. Oh, somebody typed it in there. Yes, and VRML, that's what I was thinking of.
Chris, you can unmute and just tell us things. Okay. Chris is shy,
I'm
obviously.
going to check the control panel and see. I need to definitely make it so that I can have a card though.
Well, thank you very much for the talk tonight, Kirk. I'm going to sign off now. Goodbye, everybody.
All right.
Have a good one, Michael.
I found the NVIDIA control panel, but clicking it does nothing. Oh, there it goes. It's just really slow. Ooh, there's a nice 3D NVIDIA logo spinning around. Let the 3D application decide. Use my preference. Oh, I'll figure that all out later when you guys are not forced to watch me.
Well, we will wrap it. And Kirk, maybe we should just meet up soon.
Yeah, I think I have to get kids in the shower at this point anyway.
Plus,
thank you for everybody who stuck
bars
around
aren't
and
open
talked.
much longer. The bars really aren't open much longer. So there you go.
Yeah, Friday. I would meet up with you for a beer on Friday.
Ping me.
Like seriously,
I'm sure that works. But
All right,
ping me anyway, and we'll make it happen.
Alina, respond to my emails someday, please. was my last comment. She's already gone. She's not
I
even here.
know.
Look, her
She-
video's off. She's on
She's
mute.
pretending to be here and not really here. I got it.
I'm gonna start talking smack about Alina now. Alina.
Oh, you know, tell you the neighborhood sure has changed since you've gone. Anyway, Kirk, thank you very much. I appreciate
All
it.
right.
Have a
Bye,
good
everybody. Hopefully, I'll see you at the
Bye.
next in-person
Bye.
gathering.